Hey, so in today's video I'm going to cover the topic of declination and what we mean in astrology when we say a planet is out of bounds. Now this video is divided into three parts. The first part we are going to look at the science. The second part we are going to look at charts of famous people with out of bounds planets, and I'm also going to show you how you can see if you've got OOB planets in your birth chart. And the last part we are going to just describe how these planets, out of bound planets, operate. Okay, so stick around. Let's get into it. Okay, so this is a refresher lesson on how the Earth has seasons. We have to understand how the Earth has seasons to understand declination. So the Earth orbits the Sun, but does so at an angle. The Earth is tilted, right? And this tilt means that the Sun's rays can only hit the Earth's surface at a 90-degree angle within the tropics. First of all, let's just understand what we mean by longitude and latitude. So lines of longitude are these lines, right? The vertical lines running north to south, and latitude, also known as parallels, are these lines running east to west. The Tropic of Cancer, the Equator, and the Tropic of Capricorn. The Sun does not exceed the tropics, right? The Sun cannot move beyond the tropics because of this tilt. When the Sun reaches the highest and lowest points, we mark them in our calendar. And of course, I'm referring here to the equinoxes and the solstices. When the Sun is at 0 degrees, we celebrate the equinoxes, and during the solstices, the Sun is at 23 degrees, 26 minutes north or south. So, for example, in the vernal equinox, right, the spring equinox, the Sun is at 0 degrees declination and 0 degrees Aries, and during the summer solstice, the Sun is at 23 degrees, 26 minutes north or south of declination. And for example, summer solstice, the zodiac degree there would be 0 degrees Cancer. Right. Now the maximum again applies to the Sun. So this maximum limitation of 23 degrees 26 minutes applies to the Sun, but does not apply to the planets. The Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Uranus, and Pluto all exceed this maximum, and the Moon does so quite regularly. The Moon can actually reach as far as 28 degrees. When this happens, we say that the planet is out of bounds. All right? And out of bounds, by the way, is a term coined by Katie Boer. Jupiter occasionally goes out of bounds, but by a tiny amount, and Saturn hasn't gone out of bounds in hundreds of years. Okay, so we're not going to look at Saturn in this video. Well, no video. I'm not going to do Saturn. Now, when a planet steps outside these borders, okay, he is no longer, well, they are no longer under the king's gaze. So they are free to operate as they will. They are wild, they're unrestrained. They are, the term that I've come across more often than not is feral. They are unrestrained, feral, and wild. But I think the best way to think of out of bounds planets is to think of them as potent and extremely, like their energy is very concentrated. They are able to be truly themselves. That's possibly the best way to describe out of bounds planets, because they are no longer controlled by the Sun. Remember, the Sun in astrology is considered the king of the solar system in astrology and astronomy. Without the Sun, we would not be here. So these planets that are out of bounds, they are immune to any hand of authority, and they follow their own rules and guidelines. Now, like I said, the Moon is the most regular out of bounds planet and can go out of bounds twice a month, and she does so in the following signs twice a month, usually in Gemini and Cancer, and Capricorn, and Sagittarius and Capricorn. But this happens only in these 9 or 10 year chunks of time. So for 9 to 10 years, usually 9 years, she'll go out of bounds often, and then for another 9 years she's inbound and doesn't go OOB. All right, so let us look at some charts of famous people so you can actually see what this looks like. Okay. Now, before we dive into Bjork's chart here, let me tell you how you can access this information, how you can see if you have any OOB planets, if you were born at the time when a planet was out of bounds. So what you do is you go to astro.com. If you don't know how to use astro.com, I have a free resource for you. I will put the link down below in my comments, where I share a step-by-step process so you can download your own birth chart. And what's important is that you click on the option to have an extended chart selection. Once you've called up your chart, okay, you're going to notice that there's going to be 2 buttons above the chart. One says PDF drawing, the other one says PDF additional tables. You are going to want to click on this one, the PDF additional tables, to see if you have any out of bounds planets. Now this is Bjork's chart. Now you're probably familiar with Bjork. Bjork is an Icelandic singer, songwriter, producer, a truly original, authentic person, is someone who's just following the beat of her own drum. So we are going to expect to see some OOB planets here. Now let's click on this PDF additional tables, and yes, there we go. There they are in red. So OOB planets are going to come up as in red if you're using astro.com. And again, remember, a planet is out of bounds if they exceed that number of 23 degrees 26 minutes. So Bjork has Mercury out of bounds, she has Venus out of bounds, she has Mars out of bounds. All of this makes sense because Mercury rules the voice, the way we communicate, the way we express ourselves. Sorry, Mercury does not rule the voice. Mercury rules how we communicate, makes us, the way we write, the way we speak. But Venus rules the voice, and the way we think is ruled by Mercury. So Bjork has a distinctive voice, but also a very distinctive way of communicating and expressing herself and thinking. Then, of course, she has Mars out of bounds. And why do I say, of course? I've noticed many famous people have Mars out of bounds, because Mars is the planet that gives us energy, energizes us, motivates us to express our sun signs or our sun's authentic heart, right? So it doesn't surprise me that so many famous people have Mars out of bounds. You're just given more of that zest, that energy, that drive to fulfill your destiny and to be more of yourself, right? So the next chart I wanted to look at quickly was Oprah's. And again, we all know Oprah. If you click on PDF additional tables, you see that Oprah has the moon out of bounds at 24 degrees 59, and we'll cover what the moon is all about a little later in this video. And then I wanted to share with you Yuri Gagarin. Yuri was the first man in space, a Russian cosmonaut, and interestingly, he has the moon out of bounds, 27 degrees. That's pretty far out, and of course he did literally go quite far out. And then I wanted to share with you, oh yes, Coco Chanel. Coco Chanel, if you click on this PDF additional tables to see her out of bounds, she has Mars out of bounds, 23 degrees 29. And again, like I said earlier, unsurprising, because Mars out of bounds is really fortified, very energetic, very driven. And then I wanted to share this one, Robert Oppenheimer, who is known as the father of the atomic bomb, because he has had I don't think he's no longer with us. Uranus out of bounds at 23 degrees 38 minutes. And Uranus, you may know, is the planet connected with inventions and revolutionary actions. So interesting that he has Uranus out of bounds. And then there was also, thought I had it here, I wanted to share as well Dolly Parton. Can't seem to find it here, but Dolly Parton has, no longer here. Dolly Parton has Venus out of bounds, Mercury out of bounds, and Pluto out of bounds. She was born in 1946. Okay, so let us go back to the presentation. Oh yes, I wanted to share this quote with you regarding the seasons. It comes from the Egyptian Book of the Dead, and it is the sun god Ra saying, "I am the maker of the hours and the creator of the days. I inaugurate festivals." I love that quote. It just reminds us of how how we need the sun. Without the sun, we would not be here. And how the sun, of course, does mark our days, creates the days, invigorates, it gives life, right? And how we are supposed to remember and celebrate the equinoxes, the solstices, and even the cross-quarter days. Okay, but that's for another video. Now, OOB moon. So if you have an out of bounds moon, what does this mean? How are you expressing yourself? How is this OOB moon operating? So an OOB moon can make you highly creative, very empathetic, but also awkward and zany and entertaining. Alternatively, if you're not empathetic, there is a chance that your OOB moon is emotionally cold, sociopathic, even psychopathic, and you may feel like an exile. What do I mean by sociopathic or psychopathic? Of course, these are not diagnoses. These are falls under the antisocial personality disorder, which means that people with that disorder don't like following or don't know how to follow societal norms and rules, and basically struggle to form attachments with others, right? It does not mean, though, if you have an OOB moon, that you do have a anti-social personality disorder. It just, sometimes you will find this OOB moon in people who suffer from that disorder. Okay, OOB Mercury, so out of bounds Mercury, genius. You are an unconventional thinker. You are an exceptional writer or an eloquent speaker. What I've also found when I speak to my clients with an OOB Mercury is that they feel misunderstood, like they're not always on the same wavelength as other people, and this is of course because they are unconventional thinkers. The other thing that's come up with me in years of doing charts is I've noticed that some of them have trouble with mobility, literally getting from place A to place, from A to B. They just struggle with that. So that's an interesting thing. And if you do have an OOB Mercury, let me know if that's ever come up with you. We just generally, either you have physical, a disability of some sort and you can't get around well, or just the idea of getting around is troublesome and complicated, or you get lost easily. Then the OOB Venus, out of bounds Venus, known for your beauty, the pretty woman. I put that there because I know Julia Roberts has an out of bounds Venus, and of course she is, the pretty woman herself. And then enigmatic persona, distinct sense of style. Other people that come to mind when thinking of out of bounds Venus are Greta Garbo, of course, enigmatic persona. The Italian actor, silent actor from the 1920s, Rudolph Valentino, right, also very enigmatic, mysterious, seductive kind of personality. And distinct sense of style is a big one with OOB Venus. Trying to think of someone else I know. Well, look, Dolly Parton, right? OOB Venus. OOB Mars, athletic, fierce and courageous, soldier, warrior, can be a narcissist or self-absorbed, right? Unsurprisingly, the world's best sprinter, Usain Bolt, has an out of bounds Mars. OOB Jupiter makes you a visionary, also prone to extremes in just action and in thinking, just overcommitting, overpromising. Out of bounds Uranus, a revolutionary, inventive, but also possibly dangerous. Just think back to the chart Robert Oppenheimer with his OOB Uranus. And then OOB Uranus loves challenging social norms. OOB Pluto, and I'm going to do a video on out of bounds Pluto, a separate video on that. But yes, if you have an out of bounds Pluto, because I'm doing this video, by the way, on out of bounds Pluto, because Pluto is currently out of bounds, hasn't happened in a while, so we have to cover that. I'll do that in another video. Out of bounds Pluto, influential, powerful, obsessive, and has this knack or this ability to get to the truth of things. Okay. So I just wanted to recommend books here if you're interested in learning more about declination. Declination, The Other Dimension by Katie Boorer. Declinations in Astrology by Paul F. Newman, and the book On the Moon by Stephen Forrest. So I'd love to know, do you have any OOB planets, out of bound planets? Do you have any? And how do you identify with that planet? Please leave me a comment, and do remember to like and subscribe. Thank you for watching.